What if our constant search for positivity and happiness is making us misunderstand or even fear a huge part of what it means to be human? Our world today seems to have this powerful and unwritten rule that you must be happy. It's everywhere, from wellness apps and culture at work, bumper stickers. We're not just encouraged, but almost expected to be positive all of the time. But this obsession with happiness makes our world a very strange and lonely place for someone who is grieving. If being happy is the main goal, then grief, with all of its sorrow and confusion, starts to look like a personal failure. It feels like a problem, and so we treat it like one. In today's society, it seems grief often gets a deadline. You get a few days off work, a few weeks of sympathy, and then comes the pressure to get back to normal. You'll hear things like, "Oh, shouldn't you be over it by now? That was so long ago, you're still upset." This rush to process loss and get back to being a productive, happy person is incredibly isolating. It makes it seem like grief should be a temporary thing. This is a misunderstanding of what grief actually is. Grief is a healthy and completely rational response to losing someone or something significant. And yet, when we grieve for too long or too deeply, we're often made to feel like something is wrong with us. It's gotten to a point where psychiatry has formally recognized prolonged grief disorder, which, while helpful for some, also reinforces this idea that there's a right amount of time to grieve. We're told to move on from grief, but truth is we need to learn how to move on with grief. To understand grief, or at least the best I can or we can, we need to look beyond just this surface level sadness that it comes with. Philosophers have tackled this for centuries, offering insights how to help us endure this pain. The ancient Stoics, for instance, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, they thought that we should prepare for loss as a natural part of life. Their approach encourages us to focus on our inner response, our virtue, in the face of what we cannot control. It's a call for resilience, a way to endure life's inevitable hardships without falling apart. But this kind of rational endurance doesn't tell the whole story. The pain of loss isn't a failure of reason. To grieve is to confront the void left by someone or something, and that confrontation is an essential, if agonizing, part of being human. Seeing it this way, grief really isn't something to get over. It's an experience that reveals the architecture of our lives, the relationships that give it meaning. The pain is, in its own hard way, a tribute to our capacity to love. I'd like to ask a question now, and I'm not exactly sure how to phrase it, but bear with me. Who are we without the people who help make us who we are? So much of our identity is tied up in our relationships. We're a husband or a wife, a parent, a child, a sister, a brother, a friend. These aren't just labels. They are relationships that have shaped our habits and our beliefs over time. When we lose someone so central to our life, a parent, a child, whatever, we don't just lose them. We lose the parts of ourselves that were tied to them. This is why grief can often feel like a crisis of identity. We're left asking, who am I now? Who am I without this person? The process of grieving, then, isn't about getting back to the person you were before the loss. That person no longer exists. Grieving is the slow and painful rebuilding of your sense of self. It's about shaping this loss into a new identity, one that is forever marked by that person's absence. And of course, this is not about forgetting. It's about finding a way to carry their memory and that love forward into a new way of being. It's not a change that we choose, but it is one that reshapes who we are. It's at the risk of sounding sentimental, it's a painful becoming, if you will. But what can we do about grief in the moment? When you're faced with that kind of pain, it's only natural to look for a way out, to try and think your way out of the suffering. Some philosophies might seem to offer help or an escape, suggesting that if we adopt a more detached or a big picture view, our sadness will go away, or at least shrink. But this way of thinking has its limits. Trying to rationalize away the pain of grief risks invalidating the love that makes life meaningful in the first place. To tell someone their pain would lessen if they just zoomed out is to dismiss the unique and personal relationship that they're mourning. Grief is, by its very nature, personal. It's about a specific person, or place, or a thing, a specific love at a specific time. My mother, my cat, this moment, this laughter, this sneeze heard halfway across the house that once annoyed you is now a cause of great pain. Any argument that tries to erase that specificity completely misses the point. Again, grief is not an error in reasoning. It's not a deviation from clarity. It is, in fact, a form of clarity, a painful recognition of what really mattered. So if there's no cure for loss, and if a return to the old you is impossible, where does that leave us? Of course, the answer is not about letting go, but about learning to hold on in a different way. The conversation, once spoken, the moments once lived, continue in our hearts and in our actions. The idea of a continuing bond suggests that healthy grieving isn't about severing our ties to the lost, but about finding a new way to connect with them. This connection can live in the stories that we tell, the traditions we uphold, the moments where we ask ourselves, what would they have done? It's a way we try to live up to the best parts of them. And no, this isn't a refusal to move on. It's a form of love that endures, one that asks not to be forgotten, but to be integrated into who you are now. In choosing to remember, we honor them by letting their influence shape and evolve ourselves. And in a world so eager to forget, to streamline, to hurry forward, the one who still grieves is the one who still remembers, and to remember, even when it hurts, is a very beautiful and human thing we can do. Grief is a journey that we all take, but each path is very personal. There's no right or wrong way to feel. I'd be honored if you'd share some of your own reflections in the comments. How has grief reshaped your world? After all of this, I wish I could offer a simple answer or a clear path forward, but I can't. Truth is, there's no map for this journey. What I can say is this: you're not alone in your grief. As isolating as it feels, you're walking a path that is part of our shared human story. It's a path walked by billions before you and will be walked by billions after. And maybe there's some hope in that. Not that there's a cure for the pain, but in the connection that we all have to it. Just some random thoughts. Thanks for watching.